Hey, Miami Vineyard, so good to be with you. So good to be with those of you joining us online today, whether you're joining us live or on demand. Hey, can we make some noise and welcome in our online Vineyard family? So my name is Kevin. I'm one of the pastors, and I know Thanksgiving is just 2 weeks away, but I'm just curious. How many of you are excited for Christmas? Anybody ready for Christmas? All right, how many of you have already started listening to Christmas music? Anybody? Okay, see those hands. Anybody have your Christmas lights up? Anybody your tree up? Okay, those are the people who need professional help. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So why are we talking about Christmas in November? Because it's at this time of the year that people begin to experience some Christmas stress. I did a little research this week about what is the number one cause of holiday stress, Christmas stress. You know what the number one cause is? The Miami Dolphins. No, I'm just playing. The number one cause, it's not, you'd think it might be your crazy relatives coming to spend 2 weeks with you. That is a cause, but that's not the leading cause. The leading cause of stress during Christmas, you ready? Finances. The pressure, the strain. Trying to figure out how we're going to have enough to pay for it. This weekend, we're in part 2 of a series that we're simply calling Enough. And here's what we're saying in this series, that even when everything is screaming at us that we don't have enough, we serve a God who is more than enough. Come on, somebody. We serve a God who is more than enough. And we've been saying in this series that having enough is not found in a dollar figure, but having enough is found by putting our faith and trust and hope in a God who has enough. And so last weekend, we kicked off this series, with a message called God's Got Enough. And it was a really sweet message because if you were here last weekend, all y'all got some Skittles last weekend. Remember that? I mean, it was, come on, man, it was raining Skittles in this place last weekend. And we talked about this, and so y'all got Skittles. We use Skittles as a way to talk about a little bit of our money. And I said the S on Skittles stands for what? Steward. Very good. 3 of you knew that. Very good. Let's try that one more time. The S on the Skittles stands for? Steward. All right, good. Steward. Steward, what's a steward? A steward is somebody who simply takes care of somebody else's stuff. That's a steward. That's what we are. We said this, God owns everything. Everything. Everything we have is God's. It belongs to God. He just lets us use it. So we are a steward because we simply take care of somebody else's stuff. It's all God's stuff. And so we talked about this last weekend, and if you missed last weekend, you got to go to YouTube. You got to watch last weekend's message. It was a powerful message. But I just want to say a couple things as we talk about this today, because here at our church, about every 12 to 18 months, we do a series on generosity, a series on giving, a series on finances, just to help us. And so I want to give a couple ground rules about this. First of all, let me just say, listen, I know it's not easy talking about money. It's a little awkward, kind of like talking about politics or sex. But can I say this, that the Bible talks about it all the time. All the time. There's thousands of verses in this book that speak about money, finances, resources. And so, why? Well, first of all, I think because it's on our mind, but secondly, because of this, God cares. I want you to know today that God cares about you. He cares about your life. He cares about your finances. He cares about stuff. And God's goal for you is that you would not only have enough, but you would have enough to share with everybody around you. So that's the first thing I want to say to you. Here's the second thing I want to say to you when we have this conversation. We don't want something from you. We want something for you. And what's that? We want you to experience the freedom of not having the pressure and the stress and the strain of finances. We want you to have enough. And God wants you to have enough. God wants to bless your life with not just enough, with more than enough. That's what we want for you. So, this weekend, we've brought in a financial consultant to help us with this. I thought, why not bring in somebody who knows something about money? So I made a few phone calls. I tapped a few of my friends, And the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is here with us today. He's a Miami guy. He's actually not here with us today. Somebody going, you got Bezos? Bro. No, I don't got Bezos. But what I do have is I have somebody who would put Bezos' wealth to shame. I got somebody who scholars say is the wealthiest man who's ever lived. This guy, his name is Solomon. He actually wrote a couple of books in the Bible. One of them is a book called Proverbs. And in the book of Proverbs, Solomon gives us wisdom for life, just practical wisdom for life. In fact, we could rename Proverbs life hacks, because that's what he's doing. He's just giving us wisdom for life. And so Solomon says some things about our money, says some things about our finances, really good stuff. We're going to look at what he said today. So I'd love for you to do something with me to track with me. I'd love for you to locate some message notes. Message notes are all virtual. You find them on our Miami Vineyard app. So if you don't have the app downloaded yet, simply go to your app store, search Miami Vineyard. It's a free download. In the room today, you can scan this QR code in the seat back in front of you. Again, a free download. Once you get the app downloaded, tap on this weekend, the message notes. Or if you're in the room today, you can pick up a hard copy of these notes at the back tables. Some Bible verses on here, a couple blanks to fill in. This will help you track with me as we walk our way through this today. So I'm going to get right into this. Solomon says, look, the wisest man, he was the wisest and the wealthiest. Those two usually go together. The wisest and wealthiest. Solomon says, look, if you want to have enough, he said, here's a couple things we got to do. Here's the first one Solomon says, if you're taking notes, we got to keep track. We got to keep track of our stuff, of our money, of our stuff, where it comes from and where it goes. Solomon says this in Proverbs 27. He says, riches can disappear fast. Now pause there for a moment. How many of you agree with that part of the verse? Riches can disappear fast? Yeah. Hello. So look what he says. So watch your business interests closely. Know the state of your flocks and herds. Now, when Solomon wrote this a couple thousand years ago, everybody were farmers. So he said, know the state of, they had sheep and goats. So he says, know the state of your flocks. If he was writing this today, he would say, know the state of your stocks. You got to know, listen, your real estate, your businesses, your personal finances, your bank account, the balance on those credit cards, the car loan, the rent, the money we're spending on subscriptions like for Netflix and Apple TV and Paramount Plus and Disney and all the rest. Recently, my wife Debbie and I, Pastor Debbie and I, we did a little, we tried to keep track. So we kind of went through some of this stuff, and we realized that that for some of these subscriptions, she was paying for it and I was paying for it. We didn't even realize it. But that adds up. $15 a month for that stuff, and if we're both paying for it, that could be $500 a year. If we save some money just simply looking at knowing the state of our stuff, and we got to keep track. And Solomon says, we got to know. But let's be honest, we don't always like to know, especially what we owe. We don't mind knowing and looking at what we own, but we don't like looking at what we owe. Because sometimes when we look at what we owe, it's just really depressing. So I got a friend who runs finances for his company. Years ago, the company was not doing very well. I went to visit him one time over lunch at his company, and this was back in the day when bills came in the mail, with a real printed copy of bills. He had a stack of bills on his desk about this high. And he looked at me, he said, Pastor Kevin, we can't afford any of these. I said, what are you going to do? He takes a stack of bills, he slides them across his desk, and they drop off in the trash can next to him. He says, they'll send another one. And I said, bro, that's not a really good strategy. He said, they'll send another one. They always do. Listen, I'm not advocating that. But here's the deal. Solomon says, if we don't know, if we're kind of in the dark about what we have and what we owe, he said it's going to be a heap of trouble. In fact, look what he says in this next verse. He says, get the facts at any price. I want you to notice this equation here on screen, and also notice this equation. Solomon says, ignorance plus easy credit equals disaster. Ignorance. What's ignorance? Not knowing. And plus easy credit, you're going to get credit card bills in the mails every day. So if we don't know and we just keep adding it up, it's going to equal, notice, disaster. Listen, that's true, and we know that's true in our lives. And so we've all heard that ignorance is bliss, and it is until it all hits the fan. And what Solomon is saying, what God is saying, God doesn't want us to be behind financially. God wants us to be ahead. He wants us to be ahead. And so how do you keep track? Well, there's a lot of ways to keep track. Can I just give you one app that's very helpful? The app is called Every Dollar. It's a free app. It's a free download called Every Dollar. And you know what it helps you keep track of? Every dollar. Yeah, you guys are smart, yeah. Way smarter than their group last night, way smarter. Every dollar. Before we move on to point two, the second thing, let me just say this. If you're dating, or if you're married or thinking about it at any time in the future, can I speak to you as someone who's been married for 39 years? Can I speak to you as someone who's been leading this church as pastor for many, many, many years? Can I speak to you as someone who's had literally thousands of conversations with couples over the years? And can I encourage you in this way? Please don't keep your partner in the dark regarding your finances. Please, each person needs to know what's going on in the other person's life regarding finances. When we come to do this marriage thing, we say, we're going to be in this thing together for the rest of our life. The me becomes a we. And the we has to also be with our finances. What I have seen over the years, when a marriage struggles, and honestly, sometimes when a marriage ends, we think it's because all this and all that and infidelity, and those can be reasons. But I'm telling you, one of the biggest reasons marriage end is because of finances, and because of one person's doing it this way, one person's doing it this way. They don't communicate, they don't talk, they don't know. So I'm just encouraging you right now, if you're married here today, if you choose to get married, then choose to bring each other into your financial picture as well. No extra charge for that? That's a freebie. Okay, moving on. Here we go. Here's the second thing Solomon says. He says, if I'm going to have enough, I got to plan my spending. He says, we just can't fly by the seat of our pants, because most people who use this method end up losing their pants. Look what he says. He says, plan carefully and you will have plenty, but if you act too quickly, you will never have enough. You know what this verse is saying? This verse is saying that having enough is not based upon how much we make. See, that's one of the biggest myths in our society. We think, if I could make just a little bit more, then I'd have enough. And if I could just win the Powerball, just win the Mega Millions, I'll have enough. Well, maybe, but can I tell you the stats from people winning the Powerball and Mega Millions? They're worse off financially before they won. I'd like to try. Okay, so listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal. This whole idea is a mindset. Because if we're living above what we're making right now, if we're making this, but we're living above what we're making, if we're living like this, it's not going to change when you make more. If we're not making it on 50, 60, 70 now, we're not going to make it on 80, 90, or 100 if we get that raise or we get that bump. You're going, Pastor Kevin, I'd certainly like to try. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. You see, here's a secret. Here's a secret coming up on screen. You see it. Having enough, I put it on your outlines. Having enough is not based upon how much we make. It's based upon how much we spend. See, having enough doesn't come from making more. Having enough comes from spending less. You know what that means? That means now within reason. I mean, sometimes we just simply don't make enough. But most of the time, it comes from us just simply not corralling and having control of our spending. Notice again what that verse says. That same verse, if you plan carefully, have plenty. If you act too quickly, you know what he's talking about? Act too quickly? He's talking about impulse buying. It's when you don't set out to get things, but you're doing some shopping, either in person or online. and something catches your eye, and somehow it just magically appeared in your cart. We all know that. Target runs and all the rest. He's talking here about impulse buying. And impulse buying is based upon emotion. I see it, I want it, I get it. Let's have a little honesty in the house today, a little true confession. How many of you would admit to saying that there's been at least one time in your life that you bought something impulsively and later regretted it? Can I see your hands? Come on, come on, come on. Put them up, put them up, put them up. If your hand's not up, you're a big fat liar. You say, God, I just lied to you in church. Okay, so with that in mind, I want you to notice the next verse on your outlines. And I want us to read this next verse out loud together with great Sunday morning enthusiasm. You ready? Here we go. Ready? Out loud. Stupid people spend their money as fast as they get it. Okay, this concludes today's message. Now look, I didn't say that. The Bible said that. Whoa, you're going, whoa, 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 Pastor Kevin, whoa, are you saying, wait, are you saying God's calling me stupid? I'm just saying what the Bible said. That's all I'm saying. But what he's saying here is, look, if we just spend it all without thinking about it, without planning for it, he says it's not very smart. And some of you, listen, can I just say to some of you in this room today, I feel for you, I do. Because some of you in this space today, you're just under it financially. There was a season of life for me where I was under it financially. I felt like I was, if the water line is here, I felt like I'm below the water line, and I had a straw going up to get air. The pressure of all of this. And listen, I feel for some of you in this space today. But can I say to you, you got to come back next weekend, because next weekend I think is going to be so helpful for all of us next weekend, but especially for those of you that are struggling to make it happen, ends meet financially. You got to come back next weekend. You got to come back next weekend. So so the first thing Solomon says, we got to keep track, plan my spending. Here's the third thing Solomon says. He says, save for the future. That's the third thing, save for the future. Let me ask you a question. Have any of you had any ants visit your house recently? I don't mean like uncles and aunts, tias and tios. I mean like the insects. The insects. Did you know God sent them? What? Solomon tells us. He tells us to look at the ants. He says, let them teach us a lesson. He said, because they don't have big brains like we do. They're teeny tiny ants. But they do something that most humans don't do, and that is save. Look what it says in this next verse. Solomon says, look what he says in Proverbs chapter 6. Solomon says, look at the ant. Watch it closely. Let it teach you a thing or two. All summer long it stores up food. At harvest it stockpiles provisions. He's saying, look at the ant. So those ants you see in your house, take a lesson from the ants. They're saving. They're going to get, you see them carrying that, how those ants carry something their size, and they're storing things up. And Solomon says, take a lesson. Look what he says in the next verse. He says, the wise person saves for the future. So, when we talk about saving, we're talking about two things. Just want to help you here, a little financial advice from, not from me, but from financial advisors. Here's what a financial advisor will tell us. We need two types of savings. First saving is what we call an emergency fund. So, if the car breaks down, if the refrigerator breaks down, you need an AC repair, you have some money set aside so you can use that money that you have set aside so you don't got to slap it on the credit card and have them charge you 25% interest. Now, financial advisors will tell you, work your way, and I know it's not easy, especially it's not, I know this isn't easy, especially if we're behind already, to work your way to try and get $1,000 in an emergency fund. It's not a huge figure, but $1,000. Even if it's $5 a week, you just got to say, I'm gonna set $5 a week aside, $5 a week aside. I'm gonna get this fund to $1,000. Financial advisors say that's the first savings we need. That's going to really, really help us, and it's going to give us enough so we're not behind all the time. Here's the second thing they'll tell you. So the first kind of savings is emergency fund. Second kind of savings is retirement. Putting money into a 401k, a Roth IRA, mutual funds. And if you're working, listen, if you're working for a company that has this already and they like contribute some of this for you, fantastic. And if you're working for a company that contributes this, but they have matching funds, even better. And I just want to strongly encourage you to make sure you get the full match, because this is better than Match.com. I just want you to know. So I was talking to a young adult the other day, right? And they work for a company, they work for a large hospital. And I was talking to them about they were asking me financial questions, and I was trying to help them navigate this financial world. And they were asking me about, and I asked them, I said, look, does your company, do they have matching funds? And they said, what? They didn't even know. So I explained what matching funds were, just like I told you. They said, I don't know. I said, here's what you do. On Monday, when you get to work, send an email to HR. I said, you don't do that, right? Yep. Send an email to HR. Ask them if they have matching funds. So they did. They got back to me. Yep, they got matching funds. I said, how much did they match? I don't know. Ask them again. Another email to HR. How much do you match? They will match up to 5% of your income. And I said, let me break this down for you. If you give 5% of your income, they're going to match that. They're going to give you free money into your account. They're going to get that free money. And so I said, listen, take full advantage of that. I said, how much are you contributing now? She said, nothing. I said, listen, you've got to just work it out in your finances to push 5% over there, and they will match it. As long as you're there with them, they will match it, and you can take it with you whenever you go. And so they did. They worked this out. And I want to encourage you, can I encourage you, if your company's got matching funds, try to do everything you can to get that full match, what they're giving you, because that is free money on the table. Take it. Take full advantage of it. And listen, here's a great rule. I'm going to give you a rule now when it comes to finances. If we can do this, if we can live like this, you will always have enough and more than enough. Here's the rule. Look at this rule coming up here on screen. It's called the 10-10-80. 10-10-80. Here's what it means. First 10% goes to God. First 10% goes to God. Second 10%, you save it. Put in that retirement account. Put in that mutual funds. Second 10% goes to savings, and we live on 80. 10% to God, save 10%, live on 80%. Now, if we can do that, I know this is not easy. This is not easy. Pastor Kevin, I can't live on 100%. Now you want me to live on 80%. Okay. It's not easy. I'm not saying this is easy. Living in Miami, this is not easy. It's not. Listen, I'm telling you, it's not. If I do this, Pastor Kevin, I'm not going to be able to have everything I want. Yeah. We're not going to be able to have everything we want. Folks, living life is called making sacrifices in life. And I heard one financial advisor say it this way: we're going to live now like nobody else, so one day we can live like nobody else. We're going to sacrifice some things now, so one day we're going to have one day. And I want to encourage you, this right here, if we can do this, I know it's tough, but if we can do this, you're never going to have another financial worry in the world. But to get to this, let me tell you where it all begins. Here's number 4. Here's what Solomon says. I'm going to wrap up with this. Here's what Solomon says. Number 4 says we got to return that first 10% back to God. That's the starting point. That's the starting point. It all starts with that first 10. So here's the rule of life, simple rule of life. Whatever you want God to bless, you put him first in. You want God to bless your marriage? Put him first in your marriage. Bless your family? Put him first in your family. Bless your dating life? First in your dating life. Bless your finances? Put him first in your finances. How do we do that? We give him the first 10%. Return that first 10% back to God. Look what Solomon says. Honor the Lord by giving him, what's it say? The what? The first part of all your income, and he will fill your barns and he will fill your wine vats. Here's what Solomon says. Look up here for just a moment. Here's what Solomon says. Solomon says, when I honor God with that first 10%, he's going to fill your wine vats. He's going to overflow. Pastor Kevin, you just spilled all over. That's what God's going to do in your life. If we honor God in this way, that's what Solomon said. And I know that to be true. Pastor Kevin, how much is the first part? First part is what the Bible calls it a tithe. The tithe is 10%. And so last week, I helped you figure out the 10%, and some of you were not here last week, so I just want to walk us just very, very quickly. Let me tell you how to figure out the 10%. It's so easy. I used to teach math in middle school. Listen, here's 10%. So in your mind, get your income in your mind right now. Whatever your income is, get that number in your mind right now, okay? Notice up here on my chalkboard. Okay, so you're working a part-time job. You make $456. Whatever the number is, you drop the last number, and the rest is God's. That's 10%, okay? How about another one? Let's say you make $1967. Whatever number, drop this, and that left, that's God. Let's say you get a Christmas bonus this year. You get a Christmas bonus, okay? $1,500. You drop this, and that is God's. Okay? This is how this works. That's the 10%. Let me ask you a question. Why is it so quiet in here? Because I know exactly what's going on. In your mind, you're dropping the last number, and you got the rest, you're going, there's not a chance God's getting that. I'm not saying this is easy, but tithing is an act of worship. It's saying, God, I am going to honor you. It's all yours anyway, right? It's all God's. And God says, here's what I want you to do with my money. Honor me. Honor me with that first part. And notice what it says. It says, honor the Lord by giving the first part of all your income. It means whatever we have coming in, not just our paycheck from work, whatever income. So this past summer, I went and visited my family in Wisconsin. I have a brother who's done extremely well for himself financially. And when I go up there, he just doesn't let me pay for anything. We played some golf, and we went to a little restaurant to eat. And he's got two other friends who also have done extremely well financially. And so during lunch, they hey, let's play a little Yahtzee, a little dice game called Yahtzee. Some of you, anybody know what Yahtzee is? Dice game Yahtzee? Okay. Anyway, most of the time you play for fun, but they got some money, so they kind of play a little fun with money. And so, I'm sitting there. I don't have any money at all. And my brother said, oh, come on, get in the game. I'll cover you. So anyway, they got these, wagers going on, how the game goes, whatever. I don't even know what they're doing. But anyway, I know how to play Yahtzee. And I was blessed by God that day. And so we played 2 games of Yahtzee, and guess who won both games? I did. Now, I put nothing into the game. My brother said, I'm going to cover you. So they're going, okay, time's up, lunch is over, we got to go, and let's figure it out. So they got out some pad, and they're writing numbers down, they're figuring all this thing out. At the end of that day, I put nothing in. But you know how much I walked away with? $1,000. That was a great lunch. I'm just saying. I walked away, literally. I said to my brother, I said, hey, don't give me this money. I didn't put anything in. He said, just take the money. I said, okay. So I got 10 $100 bills. I'm walking away, just 10 $100 bills. Guess where the first $100 bill went? Back to God. It's not my money, it's God's money. God says where the first one goes. All your income. So the first $100 went to God. Guess where the next $100 went? Yeah, all the rest went to Pastor Debbie. You know that. You got that. You guys are smart. All the rest, you guys are so smart. That's a true story, though. Look what God says in the next verse. God says, bring the whole tithe. That means all of it. The full 10%. Bring that first 10% back to me. It says into the storehouse, right? What's the storehouse? The storehouse is the local church where you call home. We give it to God by giving it to the local church where we call home. That's the storehouse. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. And God says, test me in this. Because God says, I know you're going to wrestle with this. I know this seems crazy. I know this seems like, say what? I know that. But God says, test me in this and see if I will throw over the floodgates of heaven and pour out so many Skittles that you won't have enough room to take it in. So, Last weekend, if you were here, I invited you into what we're calling here at our church the 90-day tithe challenge, which means this. Will you, for the next 90 days, say, God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but God, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to give you back, God, that first 10% for 90 days, from now till Valentine's Day, roughly. God, I'm going to test you. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to test you. It's called the 90-day tithe challenge. Some of you took me up on the challenge last week. Some of you, I think, are going to take me up on this challenge today. I want to offer it to you again today. 90-day tithe challenge. So how do you, and listen, I'm going to sweeten the deal a little bit. I'm going to sweeten the deal because I'm going to give you, because I believe what's in this book so much, I'm going to give you a 90-day money-back guarantee. That if after 90 days you give God the 10%, right, to the local church where you call home, and you're going, Pastor Kevin, I saw nothing. Now, I'm not saying that God's going to bump you up salary-wise. He might, but I'm saying change in us, change in our emotions, change in our stress level, change, just any change, because God's going to bless your life. You can have all your money back. So I'm extending that to you today. So how do I sign up for this? On our app. On the front page of the app, you'll see a spot that says 90-day tithe challenge. You simply touch that spot, and you're going to ask for your name and so forth. And listen, they're going to give me the names, and I'm going to pray for you by name. I'm going to pray for you by name, and I'm going to send you an encouraging text every Friday to help you as you go through this journey. So I just want to invite you, for some of you here in the space today, this is your moment to just say, God, I want to do this, God. I want to do this. I want to take a chance. I want to do this. And so every year I get asked a few questions about this whole giving, tithing thing. And I just want to just throw a few out there for you. Pastor Kevin, do I tithe off the gross or the net? That's a great question. What's the answer? Yes, the answer is gross, because it all comes from God. So before we start making deductions for taxes and deductions for health care and deductions for all these things, it all belongs to God. So I want to encourage you to tithe off the gross. Second question, Pastor Kevin, what about all the other good causes out there? Great question. What about Convoy of Hope and giving to the local food bank and sending my kid to a Christian school, the tuition? What about when I buy Miami Vineyard merch? What about all that? Is that a tithe? That is not a tithe. That is an offering. The Bible talks about a tithe and an offering. The tithe is strictly the 10% that comes off the top, that goes to God. Everything else, those are all good things, by the way, all good things. That's called an offering. An offering is in addition to the tithe. That 10% goes to God. The rest is an offering. So that's tithe and an offering. Pastor Kevin, I travel a lot. I find myself giving when I'm here and not giving when I'm not here. Is there a way I can give consistently every time I get paid? Yes. If you set up your giving with our text giving or on the app or however else you set it up, there's an option called set up a recurring gift. If you choose recurring gift, then every week or every other week, however you set it up, that amount will go recurring every week. So I want to encourage you with recurring gifts. And let me say this to some of you in this space today. Some of you have set up recurring gifts years ago. And because you're tithing, God has blessed you. But your recurring gift has stayed the same. Your income level is here, but your recurring gift is still based upon your old income level. I want to encourage you to check that out, look at that, and I want to encourage you that if God has been blessing you, make sure God's getting that full 10%. So just want to encourage you with that. Here's one last one. This came to me from a couple married people. And they came to me and said, Pastor Kevin, I want to start this tithing thing, but my spouse does not. What do you recommend? I recommend going into your wife's money, stealing it, and giving it to God. Just kidding. For the record, just kidding. Don't do that. But here's what I recommend. This does happen. Married couples, sometimes it's tough to get on the same page with things. Here's what I recommend. If you want to honor God with that tithe, here's what I recommend. I have a conversation. Say, honey, I really want to try this. I really believe this. So honey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tithe on the money I make. I'm going to give that 10%. I'm going to try it for these 90 days. I'm going to give that 10%. You do with your money what you want, but the money I make, and I want to see, let's see what God does in the next 90 days in our lives. And let's just see if God makes a difference in our finances. So I would just encourage you with that, with some of these questions that came in. So let me just finish this today with how we began today. Even though everything around me is screaming that we don't have enough, we serve a God who has more than enough. Would you pray with me today? Would you pray with me as we wrap this up in a prayer today? So God, I thank you, God, for what you're doing in our hearts and our lives. God, this Miami is not an easy place to live. It's challenging in many ways, but especially financially. God, we know stats say that our cost of living in Miami is over 17% higher than the rest of the country just living here. 17%. But God, we believe that you, God, can make it happen in Miami. We believe that we can live in Miami and still have enough. And so, God, we want to say to you today that we trust you, we put our hope, and we put our trust in you. And can I just invite us today? Can I invite you today? Would you say, God, would you be my financial advisor? We have God being our advisor in other parts of our lives, but God, today, we say, God, would you be our financial advisor? God, would you lead me? Would you guide me in my finances? Because God, they're all yours. God, would you lead me? Would you guide me? Would you help me? God, would you lead me? Would you guide me? Would you help me? God, we say to you that we put our trust in you. We put our faith in you. And some of you right now today, for you, it's not only putting your faith in God with your finances. Some of you, it's putting your faith in God with your life. That if there's never been a moment in your life where you've stepped across the line where you said, God, I put my life in your hands. Not just my money. I can put my life in your hands. Then I want to lead you in a prayer right now. I'm going to pray a prayer out loud. You don't got to pray out loud. You just pray it inside and say, God, I want to put my life in your hands. So God, just pray it inside. Say, God, today, I believe you love me. I believe you see me. I believe you want the best for me, God, with all of my life. And so God, today, I put my life in your hands. I take the step of faith and I trust you. God, would you fill me with your presence? God, I don't want to just know about you. I want to know you. I want to be in a relationship with you. So God, today, Jesus, I say yes to you. With my whole life, I say yes to you. And I pray all these things today in Jesus' name. Amen.